Good evening. As I'm sure many of you are already aware, disaster struck Turkey and Syria on Monday in the early morning hours. Turkey has suffered 2 consecutive earthquakes, both over 7 in magnitude, the most devastating earthquake that has hit the region in 100 years. On the first day, the death toll was reported at under 1,000. On day 2, over 3,000. And today, reports indicate that there are over 6,000 dead. The damage is untold, the loss of life harrowing. Many have lost loved ones, homes, businesses. Survivors' lives are destroyed, and for many, irreparably. Joining me now, reporter Şebnem Arsu, who was on the ground in Hatay, one of the most devastated cities. Ms. Arsu, are you in Hatay right now?
Yes, I am in Hatay. Actually, we're trying to get to Hatay. There's huge traffic jam. There's so many cars, so many vehicles trying to get to the city center, as we call it, Antakya. And basically, the traffic is on a standstill in most of the places. So usually we should have been there 2 hours ago, and we're still on our way, and it's been 4 hours.
Can you tell us anything about the damage in the area? How severe is it?
It's beyond words can express its devastation, especially the Antakya part, which is the heart of Hatay. It's completely collapsed, completely been destroyed. There has not been a single building that I've seen totally intact. There are buildings that are standing, but you can see them leaning either left or right, back or front. It's total devastation. We saw so many people begging for help, crying for help, to save their relatives. And I've been here Monday. It was Monday evening. I was here first, and I could arrive to Hatay. We couldn't get to Antakya because the roads were blocked. But even leading towards the city center, all buildings had been collapsed. There was heavy rain. People were looking for shelter. There were no tents being put up. It was total devastation. It was an apocalyptic scene almost. And the second day, Tuesday, we could get into Antakya. And it was not any different. As I said, the buildings were totally damaged. And the sad thing is, the locals were calling for help to rescue their relatives under the rubble. They were saying that they could hear voices, they could hear responses. All they needed was the adequate machinery and equipment to take them out, which were not available. And along this one street called Atatürk Street, we did not see a single rescue operation, unfortunately, and it was just yesterday. And on Monday daytime, they said there was no one. On Tuesday, there was no one, and I understand the devastation is huge. The landscape is huge. The magnitude is huge. But there seems to be no coordination of any help that is being sent from the West.
And Ms. Arsu, this is day 3 of the earthquake now. We have had significant reporting that emergency services were insufficient, but has there been no improvement over the last 3 days as far as you can see?
Today there must have been improvement because we saw lots of construction machinery driving into Hatay. Obviously, they try to create this emergency lane through which ambulances and these construction machines can drive through. But as I said, I have not been to the city center today. I pray and I hope that the situation is obviously different. We spend most of the time driving back and forth, being stuck in traffic. Unfortunately, communications is a huge issue. People didn't have any means to contact their relatives, their friends, because inside town we didn't have any reception. So at least I hope that the reports are true, that the telecommunications had been improved. Although there seems to be a move in the opposite direction, some people were saying that there's been some limitations on bandwidth of social media outlets. I hope that's not the case, because that's the only outlet for people to tell where they are, to seek for help. Afad had built 2 or 3 food trucks in around Antakya, that we've seen. There were obviously long queues because we're talking about the entire city center population. So I think at this stage, any kind of aid is appreciated as long as it is well coordinated and well distributed.
And finally, may I ask, how are the survivors getting on? Because it is the dead of winter and much of the country is under snow. Are there sufficient medical services? Do people have places to stay? Do they have enough to eat? Have you seen anything in that regard?
I mean, as I said, Monday night it was really terrible. But Tuesday night, as I said, there was this food truck. Thank God the weather is quite good during daytime. For example, now it's almost like, I wouldn't call it spring, but at least there is sunshine. There's not heavy rain. It is a problem when heavy rain takes over, especially at night. So these people obviously do not have shelter, and some of them didn't want to, at least yesterday as we were leaving town, they didn't want to leave their buildings because that's where their beloved people lie, and they don't know what's going to happen with them. Some people were still hoping that they could save their, relatives or friends, so they were basically sitting in front of the buildings, just waiting for rescue teams to arrive. So at night, I don't know what they have done, but I have. There obviously there are certain areas allocated for their housing. We saw a park with many small Red Crescent, Turkish Red Crescent, now it's Afad tents being built up. So, but I have not been into that part of the park to see how widely those tents were set up. But as I said, the population is big. Hatay on its own, according to 2021's census, if I'm not wrong, is 1.6 million people. And Antakya is the largest township of Hatay. So you can imagine the weight of the supplies that is needed to accommodate them.
What you said about people not wanting to leave their loved ones, that was harrowing. Ms. Arsu, thank you so much for being able to join us. And I know it wasn't easy, and thank you for being on the ground there. Godspeed to you.
Thank you. Geçmiş olsun to everyone.
And for those who'd like to keep up to date on reports coming in, both us here at Medyascope and Şebnem Arsu have been covering the disaster extensively. Find Şebnem Arsu and our reporting on Twitter and on our Turkish YouTube channel. Thank you. Good night.